Hey everyone, Travis here at BlizzCon 2013, joined by Chris Sigaty of Blizzard to talk about Heroes of the Storm. Chris, thanks so much for being here. I wanted to ask you one quick question. Now I see you. I've seen so many StarCraft 2 faces associated with this project. What is that like? How many of the StarCraft 2 guys are coming over, or is it like just a team that's working simultaneously? How is this working internally?
Yeah, internally we're called Team One, and we are both the Heroes of the Storm team and the StarCraft 2 team. Dustin is the designer on both games. We actually have teams, though, that have their own design staff, their own art staff, their own programmers. The way Team 1 is configured, we have a infrastructure middle that is building the platform that StarCraft 2 is built on. When we made the decision with Heroes of the Storm that it was a fully realized product rather than a map inside of StarCraft 2, it now came out and it has its own dedicated team, but we all sit together in what's called Team 1 at Blizzard.
So obviously, a lot of people are going to make comparisons to League of Legends, Dota, especially because at one point in time the project was actually called Blizzard Dota. But I've noticed that you guys have not really used the term MOBA or arts commonly associated with those. Do you think it's a fair comparison right now to be comparing the game to League of Legends or Dota or anything like that?
Well, there's certainly roots in all of those games that come from this AOS style that was developed a really long time ago. But that's where I think the comparisons end. We're using the term hero brawler here because we want it to be focused on using these heroic champions from the different universes that we've created over the years, and not to feel like their use has to play into some genre-specific convention. Go in there, have fun with these epic heroes, and if that fun is different, that should be okay. So we are purposefully avoiding it because we want to make sure people understand it may not be what you would normally expect.
Now, along those lines, one of the more unique design decisions that you guys have made is you've sort of made I've sort of thought of it as flattening all the characters out in the sense that people all tend to be at the same level because there's a shared experience. There's no extra gold gain, so everybody sort of hangs out around the same power level throughout the game on each team. What inspired that design decision? Just because it's so different from things that we've seen in similar games.
As far as shared team levels, I think that's primarily rooted in us wanting to have crazy heroes that don't play under any convention that we've seen in the past. Abathur is probably the biggest example we have here today, but maybe he gets off a few skilled shots that kill guys. But if he had to be in the fight, earning XP in the same way as other heroes, it wouldn't work. So sharing experience allows some craziness in the roles that different heroes can play that I just don't think would be possible without that. And then why that other side of it, I think, is the game time. We're really focusing on fast action, 20-minute games, some as fast as 10 minutes, 15 minutes, some a little bit longer, but generally hitting that 20-minute sweet spot. And the conventions on these game decisions the conventions that have been in the genre are kind of thrown out the window as we do things like focus really on hero powers that you can pick out in the battlefield very quickly. So I know I jumped away from the shared team levels, but it all plays into this cohesion that's focused on the shorter, faster gameplay and allowing zany, crazy roles that can work.
So obviously, coming from the StarCraft 2 guys, a lot of people will wonder about the possibility of an esport future for this title. What are the team's thoughts right now on it possibly becoming an esport? Is that something that is sort of being built into it, or are you guys looking at it as maybe it'll happen? What are you guys looking at in that direction?
Right now, we're focused on making a fun game. That's really what we want it to be. And here's why that is. We worked on StarCraft 2. We are a team that, unlike maybe any other game out there, had to live up to an esports legacy. And I've seen other games come online saying, we now have the preemptive esport game. And people say, nice to know you. That's good that you say that. But they don't embrace it. I don't think we should stake claim to it. I don't think we even make the decision. I think the community does. But more importantly, it's a dangerous, slippery slope internally as we develop this game that if we're focused on making sure it's esport, we can very easily get away from fun. And I think it's critical that this game is fun. I think we want people to get here not because they've seen these almost untouchable pros play amazing games that they can never feel a relationship to, but that could come out. I do believe we're building a game that can be an esport, but there is that. We have a game happening today at I think it's 2:00, so it's not too far out here. Where our designers, who are some of our best players today, I'm sure that'll change overnight when we go into beta, but they're going to play it out, and I'd love to hear from you guys what you think, whether you think we're hitting the notes. But honestly, I really don't think we should focus too much on it for now, because it can get us into this like uber balance, focus on this, and that gets dangerous at times.
So, and I'm not sure if any of these situations ever occur, but if there was a point in time where you have two design paths, one is more towards like the fun element, and one is more towards a competitive or esports element, does that mean that you will always be picking the fun thing, or is it just sort of a combination where you sort of try to find like a middle path?
That's a really good question. So far, that hasn't happened. I think there's a fear there. I definitely hear it. The community says, you're just going to dumb down the game and it's not going to have that depth I need. We're finding that there's so much depth in these different elements. They're different than the depth in some of the other within the genre and some of the other games. And that's what I was talking to originally, of trying to say, look, it's not that. It's hero brawler. Just think about having fun with your heroes. But when you really go take a look at it, you go in and play the different mechanics that are within the battlegrounds, for example, and how you strategically use it, what powers you pick out in the battlefield and use situationally. I think that strategic depth is absolutely there. But man, that's a great question. If it was a left or right decision and it was fun or competition, it would totally depend on what you were talking about where. I don't know. It would definitely be a tough choice, and it would be based on where we were with other things. Are we already pretty fun? Okay, let's focus more on going right on competition. Are we already being very competitive? And that's great. Let's make sure that's accessibility or some of this fun factor is emphasized.
Now, the other side of that coin, of course, is like a feature that you guys could build into the game that doesn't have maybe a design element to it, but something like spectator mode or something like that. Is that something that you guys are looking at building in as well, or whenever you see these kind of features that you guys can add on over the top, are you considering that?
Yeah, we absolutely want to do something like spectator mode. We're working on technologies right now that we think are critical to the game. The first things that we're working on, and a lot of the same people work on the same things. This is always a matter of resources at Blizzard, but they're working on the basics that we need to execute against this game. It's a free-to-play game. We don't have all these microtransaction systems. We're building that stuff now. Those take up those resources. There is an advantage we have when we made the decision to fully realize Heroes of the Storm as its own game rather than a map inside of Star 2. We have it brought up to the platform level. So a lot of the things you see in StarCraft 2 will come across, things like our replay system that handle competitive situations where players can go back to where they were in a game if anything happens. A lot of that Heart of the Swarm work that we did will appear here. We are working on Rejoin right now, for example. But things like you're talking about, like some sort of observer mode. It's not observer mode. What is the
spectator mode or whatever?
Right. Spectator mode is something we absolutely want to do. Whether it will be there by open beta or not, that's something that I can't commit to, but we definitely want to have that kind of functionality.
Playing the game, I felt as though I realized at some point in time, I've had several rounds in it now, that it really should be focusing on, like, players should be focusing a lot more on these objectives and that kind of thing, as opposed to just like the personal performance that we've seen in other games of the genre. Do you think that the objective-based play and all that is where the true competition lies, and that's where things will be taking place, or do you think that that's just sort of an extra element of the game?
No, I actually think those objectives are critical, and that's something that is going to be interesting for us, because how it unlocks to players, how they first get in there. At the basic root of the game, you are still pushing on the enemy towns and fortifications to get through and destroy their base, and they're doing the same to you. And you can do that. And if you don't get these objectives, that's great. But once you understand what these objectives are and just how powerful they are, they do become a focus. And we're finding that it really gets to very fun gameplay as players. Things like on Cursed Hollow, the tributes, when the other team has two and the next one spawns, there is going to be a team fight there. There's going to be a battle, and that forces it. If you don't understand the mechanics at all, it may happen and you don't realize, and that's something that happens as you learn and take this game in. But once those things come online, I do think there'll be objectives will be a big part of it. Where we want to be with those objectives, though, is that strategically you can still make a choice to say, we're going to give this up, but we're going to gain ground in some other strategic way, like push on this top lane right now, or these fortifications over there, or go get a couple of elements on the map while they get that. And yes, they're going to push on us really hard here, but we'll have 2 tributes and we can grab the next one. So I do expect it to go, these objectives to be critical to strategy.
Sort of wrapping up the interview, I played World of Warcraft for a very long time, and after a couple games, I started to realize that there was a big feel of it to sort of like the battlegrounds or even arenas. How much of the game did you look at WoW, or was this just sort of like a spontaneous thing that occurred?
No, it's been definitely an evolution for us. We've had some mechanics in the maps. They've become crazier and crazier and crazier, and it really took on steam this year, I think. Battlegrounds in World of Warcraft were definitely an inspiration. So were StarCraft 2 custom maps. The campaign, for example, has a lot of this zaniness level to level to level, and that's really what we want here. We want that variety so it doesn't get caught up in there. I think if we would, when this game launches, we will have hit the right notes. If you feel better about moving into a new situation and being and executing well against that new situation with your heroes than about precisely doing this single thing over and over again and just getting better at that thing. We have that's StarCraft 2, and we do want to create something different, I think, with Heroes of the Storm.
So my interviews, just sort of whenever I do the esports interviews, they always wind down with like a shout outs or whatever. Lots of people like to say stuff to sponsors, but for you, the audience, I think that'll be watching this are a lot of esports and competitive players. Do you have anything that you might like to say to them in regards to the title or anything that they can look forward to, or even just any message you'd like to send to people that are interested in competitive and PvP and esports and those kind of titles?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say thanks to everybody. We're here at Blizzcon 2013. Thanks to everybody for participating and watching. Already been an amazing event for us, just getting back home with our fans. We missed last year. It's been super exciting. So far, the StarCraft games have been awesome. We're not abandoning it. We're not talking about Legacy of the Void yet, but we are actively working on it today. But we're super excited about Heroes of the Storm. We hope you'll give it a shot. We're heading into beta in the first half of 2014, and we are challenging the conventions, and we hope you'll take a look. Don't judge it up front till you play. It's going to be fun, exciting. Thanks, everybody.
Chris, thank you so much for the interview. Looking forward to seeing how the title develops. For everyone, you can check out the rest of our coverage of BlizzCon 2013 at ongamers.com.